Hello, ho, ho, ho. Welcome back to Evil Genius Props. I am Mike, your Evil Genius for today. Now, what we're going to do today, as you saw from the description, is go over some gifts for the prop maker in your life. If you are the prop maker in your life, feel free to send this on to somebody else who who needs to give you some gifts. We've got some ideas. First things first. A utility knife. Now, I have in my hand three. I have several more over on the workbench. They all are sort of used for different purposes. This is my most recent one. It folds, which is nice and handy. Makes it a little bit smaller, easier to have. And then it can unfold. This is the one from Fiskars. I really enjoy it. This is good for heavy duty stuff. And it's got this nice little cutout here. Specifically so you can kind of get down in there and press. It's really good for things like EVA foam, so if they work a lot with foam, or cardboard, things like that. Now, that's not the one I usually use for foam, though. I use one like this, where I can extend the blade, and then if I'm cutting something thicker, I can sort of tilt it and get more of the blade across, and that's really handy. Chances are they have some or most of these. If they don't, this is an opportunity to get them. Last one's just an X-Acto knife. This is good for detail work, getting in to get specific edges, cleaning things up even for 3D prints. A better hot glue gun. I'm going to assume they have at least one hot glue gun because I think it's legally required to have a hot glue gun when you're making any sort of craft or project. However, if theirs came from a craft store or they inherited it from their mother or whatever, and it's a tiny little thing, it's not that great. This is a shore bonder. I really like it. Heats up quickly and takes the larger size glue sticks. And the other thing worth noting here is that the tip is replaceable, so I can change that out to use different sizes if I need to. Number 3 is a heat gun. I got this one at the Orange Box. It's relatively cheap, it works well, and it's got 2 different temperatures. I use this all the time. You can use it to dry paint, use it for EVA foam, use it for XPS, the pink insulation foam, to help work on that. Just, it's got so many uses. I use it kind of all the time. I used it even for PVC pipe to heat it up to bend it. Great opportunity there to get this for somebody who doesn't already have one, and they'll just keep finding uses for it. Number 4 actually came into my shop just this past year, and I got it and I love it. It's a deburring tool. This one's by AFA Tooling, and what it does is, this is a little blade. Let's see if we can get it to focus on it. But it's a little blade with an edge on it, and then you can see as well it's got a rounded tip. And the way this works is I use it all the time for cleaning up 3D prints. I don't have one handy that needs it. Here we go, this will work. But what you can do, say for this box, put this on the inside and slide it around and it'll clear up that. I also use it all the time on the bottoms to clean up if I have a brim or anything on the bottom, and clean that up. And again, this is one of those things that I just got to use all the time on 3D prints, but that's not actually what it's mainly for. What it's mainly for is cleaning up, that's not PVC, cleaning up holes. So if you had a hole that you drilled out of metal or cut off the edge of a PVC pipe, use this to clean up that edge. You sort of stick it in and run it around. I'm not actually going to do it on my finger because that would be dumb, and honestly it's probably something I would do. But I thought better of it. Anyway, deburring tool. Number 5 is a hot wire cutter. I've got different tips for this as well, so this isn't just the only version. But what I like about this one is the power supply is separate, so I can dial up the temperatures on it and use that. Use this for carving foam, mostly carving foam, but also can use it for other things. And it's one of those things where when you have this, it's a whole lot easier. There's nothing that works better for cutting XPS foam, for instance. And you can use it sort of like this, with this tip, to sort of just draw. So if you're doing like a landscape diorama, you can just do this. Or there are different heads. And you can get like a wire head to cut. It's really just a terribly useful thing to have if you work at all with foam. All right, gift number 6, clamps. Whatever style, whatever size, they need more clamps. The saying of woodworking is the number of clamps you need for a project is the number of clamps you have plus 1. So something like this. I just whacked the camera. Or even tiny clamp. Again, squeezy jaw guy. Or one like this. I like these ones from Irwin, and there are knockoffs available where they have the handle. So you can squeeze them down so you can close them up with one hand. And also, there is a screw on there. Now, what you can do with that is actually turn this around, take this off and turn it around, and then use these as a spreader as well, not just as a clamp. So you can use it to hold things together or keep them apart. Number 7 is a roll of paper. Now, these I use all the time. I get them from IKEA. They're a lot cheaper than if you buy them from a hardware store. And basically the same thing. Use these to cover my workbench, or set it up behind something I'm spray painting or airbrushing. Can also just roll it out, put a design on it, and then this is bigger than your standard piece of paper, and you can go as long as you need to basically on it, or even just sketch out ideas as you work through. Really handy to have. One that I feel like a lot of people maybe overlook these days is they do a lot of their planning on Fusion or SketchUp or something like that online. And just having something like this to both lay out and then also be a surface to paint on is just really handy to have. Every maker these days has some sort of 3D printer, whether it's resin or filament or both. They're going to use it. They use it all the time probably, and they always need more materials for that. So roll of filament or resin for their printer. Find out what they use. This doesn't work on this kind of printer and vice versa, but find out what they use. I like medium gray colors, and then that way they're easy to paint. I don't need to prime it darker or lighter. It's just sort of right in the middle, and that helps me out. But by all means, also, especially if you're doing filaments, you can get them in all sorts of colors, all sorts of effects, glow in the dark, metallics, tricolor, bicolor, just all sorts of fun stuff with this. So that's always a good option. I never knew of anybody who was like, no, I have enough filament or resin for my prints. Number 9 is a ratcheting screwdriver. This has the multi-heads in it, and what I also like about it is, instead of just twisting, is that it ratchets. This is great, so you don't have to constantly be pulling it back out. So if you're in like a tight spot or you're in an area you can't get to, you can just ratchet it instead, so you just have to fit it in there once. Really handy to have, and it's nice to have with the different heads on it, so you can just sort of swap them out as you need to. I keep this one just above my workbench. I use it all the time. I also keep a smaller one in the box I take to shows to work on, so that I have one backstage if I need it. And again, terribly useful. This one's just a nice little ratcheting screwdriver. You can get them without the neat colors or other colors, but terribly handy to have. Last but not least, we have art of books, making of books. Whatever their fandom is anymore, there is some sort of making of book. So this is Lucas Arts. So it's got the original Star Wars and Indiana Jones. This is the complete making of Indiana Jones. And what's great about these, would have been better if I bookmarked this, is that they will have behind the scenes views or concept art of what they were doing. So if they make props and they make prop replicas, these are invaluable. A lot of times the best resources you'll find are in these. They aren't online, and they aren't necessarily anywhere else. A lot of them are taken on the set, and just they provide a whole lot of good views of things that otherwise you wouldn't have. So if you're doing something for, they're doing designs for Yoda or some of the ships. Great views of what they're doing. Sometimes even the scale is provided on this one. For instance, you can see the size of the Star Destroyer listed. And at one point I was working with Magic Wheelchair, and it was shortly after Moana came out. And everybody wanted to do a Moana themed wheelchair. So if you wanted to do a replica of Maui's hook, that's it in detail. Every carving on it laid out there for you. I actually used this and provided some scans of this over to other people who were doing Moana inspired wheelchair designs. Well, those are my 10 quick gifts for the prop maker. In general, they're going to be under $30. The art of books can get a little expensive, especially if you're dealing with some of the Marvel ones. But these are easy items to pick up that any prop maker or even maker in your life will enjoy. They are things they can make use of, which is always a challenge. I know my wife and my family are like, what can I get you that you're actually going to use instead of just put on a shelf? So these are what I recommend. I've used all of them. I like all of them, or I wouldn't be recommending them. But that's it for today. Have a good holiday, and we'll see you next time here at Evil Genius Props.